earlier this morning, we got reports that it could happen. Brent Venables could be, hypothetically, next head coach at the University of Oklahoma. You'll know that since Lincoln Riley decided to leave the University of Oklahoma to become the new head coach at USC, I have said my number one candidate has to be Brent Venables. And the reason that is one, he has an affinity and experience with the school. Two, he knows what it means to win a national championship at Oklahoma and has since won 2 as the defensive coordinator at Clemson. 3, he understands Oklahomans and what it means to be a Sooner. As a matter of fact, when he was entertaining the job at Clemson in 2012, he had to really think about where he was leaving. And he said as much, because for him, Oklahoma's not a stepping stone job. It's not one you just get up and leave. But the reason that he chose to take the job at Clemson is he wanted to evolve. He wanted to get better as a football coach, as a defensive coordinator. And since 2012, I don't know that you could say there has been a better defensive coordinator in the sport. And Clemson has acted like it, right? He is a valued asset to everything that Dabo Swinney has built. And they signed him to an extension, paying him an annual salary of $2.5 million to make him the highest paid assistant coach in football just in July. So it's not as if he's underappreciated where he is. But I think if he does choose to take the job at Oklahoma, it would be because, once again, he's pushing himself to evolve. He understands the challenge that it would be to be the head coach at the University of Oklahoma and what it would mean to fans, to media, to athletic director Joe Castiglione, who he has a relationship with, to try to pick up that mantle at a time when it feels like Oklahoma could go either way. It could be awesome or it could go into a tailspin. It could be the start of something new, like when Bob Stoops was hired in 1998, and then 2 years later, 13-0 national championship and a run unlike many others over the next 20-plus years. Or it could be Nebraska in the Big Ten. It could go either way. But for me, I understand why you would want a Brent Venables, and it's not just because of his coaching prowess, right? For me, it's you got a hard-nosed guy. You got an energetic guy. You got a man who really wants to win, who's got his very own get-back coach on the sidelines. As a matter of fact, did a show long time ago, I want to say about 3 years ago, Rufus Alexander, former linebacker at the University of Oklahoma, I was asking him to outline for me what he means when, his coaches are a little offsides. Because at the time, he's coached by Mike Stoops and Brent Venables. He said, look, Venables is not just enthusiastic and ecstatic and always loud and yelling because that's who he is, but he's also maniacal when it comes to precision. And if he tells you to line up on that blade of grass, line up on that blade of grass, not just because he's going to yell at you until you do, but because that's usually the difference between you making the tackle and you not making the tackle, because Brent has studied the film in such a way as to understand exactly where his players need to be to maximize their talents. He's also an extremely good evaluator of talent. As a matter of fact, going into the 2016 cycle, just a week before National Signing Day, they had a need at defensive back at Clemson. And Venables had heard word of this kid in Kansas who's 6'4", 205, but had been evaluated by some Big Ten programs as a wide receiver and by others as a safety. And yet, okay, cool, it is worth me making it out to Olathe, Kansas to try to take a look at Isaiah Simmons. At the time, Isaiah Simmons was courting Kansas State and Kansas. But until Brent Venables saw him, was able to wrap his arms around him, he couldn't believe the kind of jewel he had with natural ability, because you can't teach him to be big, you can't teach him to be fast, you can't teach him to be strong. But you can teach everything else. And he took a 3-star, 330th overall recruit, number 25 safety in the country, and flipped him into a destroyer of worlds. Isaiah Simmons can line up on the edge. He can be an inside linebacker. He could be a slot corner. He can play both safety positions, because that is the kind of coach Brent Venables is if he knows what he has in raw material. And I think at a place like Oklahoma, you have to be really great at evaluating talent, because you're always going to be able to recruit inside the top 10, even into the top 5 on occasion. But you need to be able to hit on those 3-star athletes as much as you hit on those 5-star athletes if you're going to search for national championships. And that's what Oklahoma's about. Oklahoma's not just about winning 10 games. Oklahoma's about winning national championships, because we're talking about a coach that decided he wanted to go to USC after winning 10 games, ending the season on a loss. And that's how it feels at Oklahoma. A 10-win season feels like 8-5, right? It feels like 8-4. And yet, Brent Venables is going to walk into that if he chooses to take the job. And I'm excited for it, because you want a man who understands the challenge of being head coach at a place like Oklahoma, or even a place like Notre Dame for Marcus Freeman. We're really getting into some very cool parts of the college football coaching carousel, and I'm excited for what the sport can be in the future and what it looks like for us even presently, as in just over 3 weeks' time, we're going to crown a national champion. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 ranked show YouTube channel.